Welcome back to Spiritual Fertility. This is Alison Bucklin, and I am so happy to have you on this journey with me. Spiritual fertility is all about growth, rebirth, transformation, growing into the person that we are meant to be, and also the journey, the ups and the downs that we have along the way. Fertility to me is not just birthing a child. And I've talked about that in my fertility journey, and we will continue to talk about that moving forward because that can be a huge impact to someone's life. But fertility is also finding new things, birthing new creations, taking a journey of change, of growth, of becoming the best version of yourself. And my intention for this episode is to teach as well as help you become aware of something that you can control in your life. And it's something that we may not be aware of. I know when I first heard this topic, a little curiosity light bulb went off in my head. I felt it in my body. I knew that this was an important topic, and it caused me to continue to be curious and learn more about it and learn as much as I can. And the topic for today is I'm going to be able to share a tool with you so that you can take control of your communication, of your inner dialogue, of how you speak and learn and know about yourself. And it's all about self-talk and using self-talk for success. So from the moment we were all born, we received messages from the things we heard, from the things we saw, from those that are around us, from all of the things in our life. So the key to wiring our brain is having these messages be repeated, repetition, repetition, repetition. So your brain, actually, the supercomputer that it is, becomes wired with the programs that you hear the most. And so that repetition of programs creates pathways in your brain that over your lifetime get wired into your brain. And see, here's the problem, is that the brain doesn't know right from wrong or what's positive or negative from what's positive or negative. It just goes to work with following the pathway of the message and program that has been repeated the most. And so our wiring determines our success or failure in any given situation. You can change your self-talk and rewire your brain. So here's what I want you to think about. Our brain is made up of all of these programs that we've heard since the day we were born. And the ones that are wired in are the ones that are repeated the most. And so at any given time, we have the ability to be able to change that. So the thoughts that we hear ourselves thinking and that we hear ourselves communicate are all of our conscious mind. Now, our conscious mind is made up of a very small percentage of our brain. The largest percentage of our brain, in fact, about 90% of our brain, is our subconscious mind. Those are all the programs that are stored that we are not even aware of. So remember, the brain doesn't know positive or negative or what's right or what's wrong. It just goes to work with the messages that are repeated the most. And over time, we become our biggest programmer because we can take a message that we maybe heard in childhood, such as, you're getting chubby, or you could never do that, or maybe it's that our parent doesn't show up for an activity, and we internally take that in and are imprinted with that message that we then create this story around on repeat for the rest of our life until we become aware of it. So these stories, these programs that are repeated that we are doing throughout our lifetime are then the things that determine our success or failure. And so the great, amazing, most positive thing about this is that we have the power to change the wiring of our brain as we become aware, as we become conscious, as we are on our spiritual journey and our evolutionary journey. So these programs come from society, they come from the government, they come from ancestral programs that are passed down, familial programs that we gain in our upbringing, in our environment, those that are around us that we spend the most time with, and then of course from our own self. So they come from all over the place. And from the moment we're born till the moment we die, we're being programmed. We're our own most programmers. But these messages that are repeated, then go in to create those wires that are in our brain. Now, certainly there's a connection between the brain and the heart, and we are encouraged to lead with our heart from love. But our brain and the programs that make up the wiring in our brain, we want them to be positive, right? Because if the brain doesn't know right from wrong or what's positive or negative, it just goes to work from what it's been wired with the most. And so we are our biggest change agents. We are the ones that can take control of our neural pathways. And let me tell you, when I first learned this and recognized that there was something that was in my control, that I could choose that I could choose what I read, that I could choose what messages I listened to, that I could choose to listen and edit and monitor and do certain things that gave me control, man, I was fired up that I could take that on. And not only that, this is a way for me as a teacher, as a coach, as a healer, to impact others by not only teaching this, but by sharing this message of positive self-talk and how it can make us successful. I'll talk about in a little bit when I share some examples of how I've used this in my life, but also in the life of my daughter. Because from the moment we're born, and especially throughout our childhood, we're getting wired with so many messages. They're coming in from all over. The look across the dinner table, what we overhear from our parents, what we're exposed to on the TV. All of these things are messages that are getting wired into our brain. And so if we're taking on all of these messages as a parent, as a teacher, as an educator, and many of you who are listening to this are parents yourself, we can then not only change ourselves and change our own dialogue and how we speak and what we internalize and who we choose to spend our time with, we can directly impact how our children's messages are then received. So how we talk to our children is what they're going to become, is how they're going to feel about themselves. And that's why I'm so passionate about this topic, because not only has it helped me, but it's given me this gift to give to others, to give to my daughter, to give to other children in my classroom, to impact others' lives so that then they can create positive self-talk in their life, in their children's lives, in their family's life, to create this ripple that moves forward. So how can you then take this information and use it? And so the best way to do that is quite easy. There's a couple steps to do that. But since we're our own number one programmer, we have all the control, right? And so we're wired for success or failure. So, but here's the problem. Another problem is that 77% and higher of the messages that are wired into our subconscious, into our brain, are harmful. So I'll repeat that again. 77% or higher of all of the messages in our brain are harmful. They work against us. They are negative and false. But because they've been repeated the most, that they are the ones that go to work. Your brain just goes to work. Think about different messages like, I can never remember names, or I don't think I'm good enough, or you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I don't like what I see. And then the dialogue starts. Those are harmful. But if we can change that and create positive programs, why not do it? That's what I'm asking you. If you had the opportunity to, from this point forward, take control, have a tool that you could then use to rewire your brain so that you were on the right pathway and had positive messages over negative messages, would you take it? Heck yes. That's what I did. I took it and I have been running with this ever since. And so the best way to change your programs is in 3 simple steps. So it starts with monitoring. Monitoring is simply listening to the thoughts that are in your conscious, that are in your awareness. For example, you walk by a mirror. What's your internal dialogue? If you could hire somebody to follow you for 3 days and write down every single thing you say and could read in your brain every thought you think, you'd probably be appalled. And because we don't talk to people like we talk to ourselves, we talk to ourselves the worst way. And some of that we're not even aware of. But if you could monitor and hear what the thoughts that you're thinking are, as you continue down this line of processing and of thinking, monitoring. That's the first step. Monitor your thoughts. Try it for a little while. Try it for a couple days. Try to be aware enough to think, what was I thinking in that moment? And notice the progression. The second step to changing your programs is to edit. We all have the power to edit, to stop ourselves before we say something, to stop ourselves before we continue down the path of thinking, especially if we recognize that it's negative and we've been monitoring it. And so we can then edit. So that's the second step. But editing alone won't change programs. It will certainly allow you to stop a pattern of negative thinking and say, no, I'm not going to go down that any longer. I'm not going to think that way about myself. I'm not going to think doom and gloom. I can edit where I am right now after I've monitored. So, but if we cannot change it by monitoring and editing alone, how can we then change our pathways? And this is a fascinating brain science. It's called neuroplasticity. We can change our programs at any time. And so the third step allows us the opportunity to do this. And it's listening. It's listening to the right messages on repeat. We can do this in a variety of ways. Through affirmations, through speaking, through listening to pre-recorded positive self-talk messages, to reading the things that we hear, through listening to the most positive things that we can on repeat. Now, those are the 3 steps: monitor, edit, listen. Now, I have learned so much about this topic through one of my mentors, Dr. Shad Helmstetter, and he is the leader in this topic of positive self-talk. He's written so many books: Positive Self-Talk for Finding Your Purpose. You can read a new message every day of the year. Neuroplasticity. He has written What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And the one that I love to listen to, the one that I refer to most often now in my life, is The Secret Words of Success. And Dr. Shad Helmstetter has actually created a program where you can listen to pre-recorded self-talk messages on your own. So The Secret Words of Success is a book. And Dr. Shad Helmstetter has found the 101 words that are used most frequently for successful people. Now, I'm not talking about success as measured in how much money you make or your status or how famous you are. It's really how people think, how positive they are. What are the words that others use that are the ones that can impact your life most effectively right now? Words like vision, competence, positive, programs, listen, service, trust, relationships, work, drive, action, plan, goals. He's divided them into topics, and you can read the book. You can get and listen to or read the book, but the best way to change it is to listen to positive self-talk on repeat. So what I'm going to do is share for all my listeners in the show notes a free 30-day trial so you can begin listening to the right messages. Now, this Secret Words of Success is on this app, is on the Self-Talk Plus app. So what I like to do is listen to this in the morning when I'm getting ready or when I'm walking on my way to work. The best way to change your programs is to listen to them on repeat. Set yourself in the right direction. So you can listen to the secret words of success. That's the one I listen to every day. Perseverance, courage, practice, optimism, endurance. And there's a self-talk message that goes along with each of these words, and it's repeated 3 times. So you get that repetition. So self-talk for success. Why is this part of spiritual fertility? Because it is a way that we can take control of our own transformation, of our own brain, of our own internal dialogue, so that we can learn to love ourselves, care for ourselves, be there for ourselves, be there for others, and help them to be the best versions of them that they can be. Now, I have let my daughter listen to positive self-talk messages. This topic came into my life shortly after I had my daughter. In fact, she was only a couple years old when I first learned about this and learned about Dr. Helmstetter's work. And it was so fortunate for me, because then I not only became aware of what I said when I spoke to her, the words that I use when I speak to others, but it made me aware of those programs, but it also allowed me the opportunity to have her listen to positive self-talk on repeat every night. There's self-talk for kids, there's self-talk for girls. That's all included in the app so that you can listen to positive self-talk. There's also a great app that I have used as well. It's called Think Up, and it allows you to create messages that you record in your own voice that you can listen to on repeat. In the future, we're going to talk about being an empath, and many of you who are listening to this may be an empath yourself, but I've actually been journaling on that topic and have recorded different self-talk around thriving as an empath that I have recorded in my Think Up app that I can listen to myself say. So it all works together to allow us to transform our lives, to then have the right messages so that we can birth new creations. What if you have an idea to birth something yourself, whether it's a book, a creative project, a podcast yourself? Well, you can notice right away that imposter syndrome can set in, and negative self-talk or negative messages, no matter where it came from, are there, they show up. But what if you could then listen to messages to help you move forward in creating that project, to writing that book, to then rewiring your brain so that you could then create that thing and birth that creation by having it wired into your brain, by having it programmed so your brain just follows along and gives you the way so that you have something in your corner, so that you are arming yourself with something that could help you. When I sit down to do this podcast and record these messages that are going to go out to you that you're listening to, of course, I have the doubt that can creep in, but I'm practiced enough to be able to monitor, edit, and then know that I can listen to or repeat the right things that I say to myself. I've actually started journaling and listening to messages that I listen to on repeat, that I write on repeat, just related to this podcast alone. I am so happy and grateful to have a podcast that is fun, easy, and impactful for others. That's positive self-talk in action, in work. You can do it for yourself. Again, check out the comments to find, not the comments. Again, check out the copy for this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, for that as well. Again, check out what I've written in the copy for this podcast in the show notes, because there is a link for a free 30-day trial. You can sign up at Self-Talk Plus. You can download the app, listen for 30 days for free, see how you like it. Listen in the morning, If you have any questions, please reach out and ask and let me know. Please subscribe to the podcast, make a review. That's how we grow. And I appreciate everything that you bring because you're here. You're listening. I'm feeling this energy even ahead of time. So my intention is that you are going to hear this message, take action, know that you can do it, be inspired to live your best life. Thanks for joining me for Spiritual Fertility. I will talk to you soon.